worked in business for about 20 years, and that's been really focused on the marketing side of business. But how did that happen, right? So let me take you back a little bit. So I have an undergraduate degree in social sciences, and after I finished my undergraduate degree, I started my career in the sports world. And you might wonder, why the sports world? Well, I was given some advice when I was studying in college. I was asked this question of, what is the thing you're most passionate about? And for me, I grew up as an athlete, and so the idea of building my career in the sports world really felt very natural. It felt like something that wouldn't be work, right? It would be turning my passion into my career. And honestly, that's some advice I got quite young, and it served me very well. So what I ended up doing after finishing my undergraduate studies is I started my career in the sports world. I started working in Major League Soccer. But I was very young, and I didn't know what I didn't know about the sports industry. And so what I decided to do was to do 3 or 4 short-term contracts. The position in Major League Soccer was set up as a 6-month internship. And so that went really well. I enjoyed it. And then what I did was I tried different areas of the sports industry. I worked on the university side. I worked for a sports product company. I worked for an event series. And really what I was trying to do was figure out what was the area that was most interesting for me, that I felt, most inclined and excited about doing. And it really was that the marketing side, but specific to sports product companies. And so I marketed myself to a number of different sports product companies, and I ended up working in the Adidas world back when the Adidas brand owned the Salomon brand. Salomon is very well known for skiing and snowboarding and outdoor sports. And so I worked on that brand for a few years. There's so much that you don't know. And with the degree that I had, I really felt like my quantitative skills were lacking. And so I decided to get a master's degree. And there was an MBA program that specialized in sports business. So essentially a sports MBA, which, really what sounded fantastic considering the background that I had had as an athlete and my early career experiences. And so I did that program at the University of Oregon. And my sole focus with getting that degree was the learnings, but then also I wanted to work for Nike. That was my dream, was to work there. And so one of the things I think that really helped me eventually accomplish that was while I was studying in grad school, I never stopped working. I continued doing consulting projects, research projects, kind of just continued building my resume while I was in school. And then after I finished graduate school, I did get into Nike, which, for somebody who grew up as an athlete, truly was a dream come true. And I was very fortunate to get to work on some incredible programs and events at Nike. Probably the highlight was working on the Beijing Olympics. And, it was interesting because I'm sure many of your listeners have felt this before, where when you set a goal for yourself, when you set that goal, sometimes it seems so far away, so unattainable. But as you take little steps towards it, you start to realize that you're getting there. You can do this. And that's what happened for me with Nike. So once I had worked there for a few years, I realized that there was more. I wanted more. And so I made the brave and bold, decision at that time to resign from my position at Nike to start my own company. And so I was about 30 at the time. And for me, as a woman who had and still has big aspirations, I really felt like I wanted to engineer what my career and life was going to look like, and I didn't want that to be under the control of a big company. About 10 or 12 years ago, I started my first company, which is called Fix Consulting, and we do sports consulting. So we work with big brands from, the Nikes and the Adidases and the Cliff Bars of the world, all the way to the startups, companies that are, that have come up with incredible ideas in the sports world, and they need to essentially rent a CMO. The other thing that's happened too is I've really gotten heavily involved in teaching. I'm a huge believer in paying it forward. And once you have achieved a certain level of success, I really believe in helping others to do the same. And so I was very fortunate about 10 years ago that I also was asked to start teaching at the school that I got my master's degree from. And that kind of went to another level, I would say 6 or 7 years ago, when that school decided to start a new program, a new master's program for students looking to get a master's degree specifically in the world of sports products, right? So I was asked to be kind of the marketing brain behind the creation and the launch of that program. And I was then asked to be the marketing professor, marketing instructor for that program. So I've been teaching marketing to students at the graduate level for about 6 years now. Since getting heavily involved in teaching and mentoring, I've also done a ton of work as a career coach and ended up writing a book. I wrote a book called Made to Hire: How to Get the Job You Really Want. And, for me, this was really a journey in realizing that if I'm going to be giving back and teaching students how to work in marketing or how to work in business, right? I need to also teach them how to market themselves, because we know it's so competitive in the career world. And it's one thing to have an amazing resume that says you went to a great school and, to have some great experiences on your resume. But if you can't handle a video interview, or if you can't, be very convincing in, in the job search process and look great on LinkedIn and have a really strong resume and all these other things, what good is it that you've learned all the, the technical or the functional skills of what you learned in school if you actually don't know how to get hired? So I actually spend a ton of time now coaching people on that side of things as well. But when I drill it down to answer your question, it comes down to a few things for me. It comes down to setting goals for yourself, right? And having the courage to write them down or say them out loud, and actually be okay with sharing the thoughts that you have in your mind when you're lying asleep, trying to fall asleep at night. We all have these dreams. It's just we often don't have the courage to actually say them or share them. So that for me is one of the first, insights or things I think that I want to share. The second one is putting yourself in situations that allows you to build your confidence. So I remember early in my career, there were all sorts of things that made me dreadfully nervous. The idea of having to do a presentation or being called on in class. Those things would make me red in the face, make me all sweaty. It was terrifying to me. And what I didn't know back then that I know now is every little situation like that feels really difficult at the time, those are the opportunities to learn and grow and take a win, and we're so hard on ourselves. But if I had reframed how I was thinking about that and not just thought of these things as terrifying experiences that I had to endure, but thought of them more as opportunities to grow and build my confidence, I think, that would have served me much better. And so that's a lot of what I share with my students now is, I know this is going to feel really uncomfortable, but trust me that the more that you get comfortable being uncomfortable, the more you're going to grow and the closer you're going to get to actually realizing your potential. We all have insecurities, right? But if we can actually be okay with being vulnerable in a situation where we feel safe, right? Whether it's with a boss or a teammate or a classmate, and if we can just say, hey, there's something I'm working on, I'm really bad at it. If you could give me some feedback, because that's the other thing is I think in our society, we've gotten out of the feedback game, the idea that feedback is a good thing, because people are so concerned about protecting themselves that they get defensive. And I always say to people, feedback is a gift. Feedback is an opportunity for you to learn and grow. It's funny how once you've done something, it feels normal. And sometimes it's also good to just take a minute and give yourself credit, because we've all already accomplished so many great things, yet we continue to be so hard on ourselves. It's human nature, right? So for me, really, I had a dream when I was 13 to write a book, but I didn't know at that point in my life what the book would be about. And it was through my journey, my experiences in business, my experiences with people, and I really felt like there was this gap in the idea that people spend thousands and thousands of dollars going to school and studying how to do something that they want to get hired to do, yet we don't actually train people how to get hired. And I just got really hung up on that idea. And I think the more that I was working, with my students at a university, I was seeing that gap. And I think because I have, a strong background in marketing, I was able to translate how brands market products and services to their consumers. I was able to translate that into how people market themselves and actually create a formula, create methods that could help people do that. And so, as scary and as it was to put myself out there in that way and to say I'm going to write a book, it was like anything. It was one page at a time. I think the other thing too that I did is I reached out to a lot of experts, a lot of people who were happy to share their stories, just like what you guys do here, reaching out to experts and asking people to share their stories with your community. That's what I did with a whole bunch of really impressive people who I interviewed in my book, top executives from companies all over the world offering their career advice. My personality type, being naturally more of an outgoing, type A personality type, has naturally steered me into leadership positions, because I don't have a problem raising my hand and taking charge. Honestly, for me, the bigger learning has been around not doing that and allowing others to lead. I've had a very positive experience through leadership roles that I've had throughout my career, but that, and I would say for people like me, that isn't where the learnings have come. The learnings have come from asking myself the tough questions, like, how do people feel when they work with me? And how do I make sure that when I'm in a group setting that everyone feels valued? My philosophy as a leader is that is an incredible opportunity. The opportunity to develop other people, that's what inspires me. That's what gets me going every day. And so, I'm a very committed leader. I believe in practicing what you preach, right? So, I regularly still, at my age, I still challenge myself to do things that are outside my comfort zone. And then I have a huge personal leadership philosophy around paying it forward, and giving back. For me, that is a huge opportunity as a leader, is how do you inspire others by what you do for others? My advice to aspiring leaders, future leaders, really would be to be brave. Just go after your goals. Your potential is truly unlimited. The only thing that's limiting you is those thoughts that happen in your mind. And take the little steps that help you build your confidence, and actually give yourself credit for it when you do something really well, and use that as fuel to get to the next step. And try to surround yourself with people who inspire you, and definitely try to seek out a mentor, somebody who will give it to you straight, somebody who when you have questions about how you're doing, they will actually give you honest answers. And I think as women, the more that we share our stories of our failures and our successes, the more that we rise up together, and I'm a huge believer that, when women support women, incredible things happen.